Welcome back to Man Across New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today? Is it a stormy on Fawnhollow? It's been a very long time since I think it's last rained properly, but for some reason the sky there looked a little bit weird. There was a bit of a weird colour filter over the entire thing, which makes it all very strange. Anyway, what have I been up to today? I watched some Northern 9 streams of him playing what's it called? The people who made Until Dawn. From software? Is that right? I don't know. Hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 5:33 PM on Tuesday, October 26, 2021. No news I can think of. So go about your usual business. Yeah, the Dark Anthology? His Dark Anthology? His Dark Materials? No, that's a book series. The Dark Pictures Anthology, or something like that. Apparently everyone's just here. Hello, you two. Do we need to talk to you? I guess we should, just for, casualness' sake. The newest version, House of Ashes, was released a couple of days ago. I think I can't remember exactly why. And I've been watching through Northern Ireland playback. It's interesting to say the least. Who's the best character? Salim is all I can certainly say for that. Of course, October 31st, the spooky month, is upon us, and Halloween we have to celebrate. Sorry, a little bit of an early pause there. Let's chat, Lily. What was it? Oh yeah, the House of Ashes. It's an interesting watch. Certainly, perhaps one of the more engaging ones of well, it's not called like his Dark Arts anthology. What are they called? Hold on. House of Ashes. There's a name for this set. The Dark Pictures anthology. That's it. If you have no idea what that is, then I can only apologise. I suppose. It's been paused again. Oh my word. Sometimes this happens, but yeah, no. That was the Dark Pictures anthology. That was right. Oh yeah, the people who made Until Dawn made an anthology series of short little snippets, I suppose, of shorter games, I suppose, which is meant to be in the style of Until Dawn. I don't think any of them have quite lived up to Until Dawn, unfortunately. But this most recent one was definitely a step up from the previous one. So what do they have from the previous ones? They had I can't remember what it's called. hold on. Man and Medan, which, by the way, I didn't even watch an entire series because, of course, the only person I watch who would play this would be Northern 9, and he got soft locked or something halfway through and didn't finish it. But I didn't even really watch him. And Little Hope was not very good, I'll be honest. Most of its story failings, I think, from Little Hope, not necessarily the actors or actresses doing particularly badly or anything. It was just a weird situation overall. But this was, I mean. Again, I suppose all of these games are kind of meant to be theatrical horror experiences rather than particularly deep or high level. I don't really know how to phrase it. Sort of video games. You're not playing it being oh, it's got this sort of depth and compelling characters and narrative as The Witcher does. It's more they've got branching paths and it's interesting that way, and the characters are kind of, they're cookie cutter, tropey-esque characters, but it's still entertaining to watch in the end. Well, or maybe not, I suppose it depends on your view and that sort of thing. So yeah, watch Northern Lions play through of it. It was alright. The best so far, but even then, it was just am I ever going to buy that game? Nah. And I never was going to, probably, so there we go. Another thing I was actually thinking about today is I saw on Reddit there was this map or something of being what do all the countries call red light, green light in their language or in their country, or what it's called locally. I assume this has been popularised because of Squid Game. Spoilers: red light, green light is one of the games they play, which you probably know already, because I even knew that happened before that episode of Squid Game came up. I said I know two of the events which happened in Squid Game. Some things have definitely caught me off guard, by the way, while watching series. I'm not going to spoil it for you here because you should probably go watch it. If you're okay with that sort of horror, that sort of thriller, Korean horror thriller sort of genre, definitely give it a shot. It's very good, I think. But even I know two of the events which happens, or two of the games, I guess might be a better way to put it. They play, but I'm not going to spoil it. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, but red light, green light appears in Squid Game, and they have a picture of that doll on it, and they have a map of Europe, being oh, this is what all the countries in Europe call red light, green light. Oh, what? Oh, we got a Nook Mile, an actual Nook Mile mission. Rafune. Wow, productive superhero. I can't really vouch for the validity of what it is in other countries, and in fact I didn't even get as far as reading the other countries because I read, what is that noise? I think it's an airplane flying overhead, because I looked at one for UK and I went, what the heck is this? It was called like peeping through the curtains or something, and I was like, what the heck? I've literally never heard anyone called peeping through the curtains in the UK back when I used to play playground games, so back in private school. Hold on a minute, there's two things here, because most of the comments said we would play What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, which is our red light, green light equivalent, which is kind of true, but I think Grandma's Footsteps is more of a direct comparison, I suppose, to red light, green light, because if you don't know, they're two different games, which might surprise you, because you're sort of like, what? Never heard of any of them. That's fair, because they're from the UK. But What's the Time, Mr. Wolf is... One person is designated as Mr. Wolf, or Mrs. Wolf, I suppose, as the case may be. It doesn't really matter, the wolf. And they're the one who goes and faces against the wall. And then everyone else like stands on a line, like however many meters away from the wolf. And then they go, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? And then the wolf goes, it's X o'clock, like it's 4 o'clock or something. In which case all the children who, you know, aren't the wolves take 4 steps towards Mr. Wolf. And then they ask again, and then this repeats with the wolf saying however many numbers that they wish to particularly say. And then you're like, hey, how does this game end? Well, the game ends when the wolf decides it's dinner time, and then they like turn around and look at where everyone is and chases them and tries to catch someone, and whoever gets caught becomes the wolf from next round. And you're like, oh, okay, so I can see how it's sort of like red light, green light, except for it's like a predetermined amount of steps you had to walk, and it's determined by the red light, green light person in the first place. Yeah, it's true, but I was actually thinking about it more today, which I'd never really realised. There's not really any point to What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? Like in red light, green light, then the concept is, okay, you know, the person says green light, red light, and when they say red light, they turn around, and if you're moving, then they'd be like, get back, which, by the way, is a lot closer to how Grandma's Footsteps is played. But, like, I was thinking about, like, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? And it's like, what's even the point? Because you don't, like, win if you manage to get all the way to the end and, like, touch a wolf or anything. You just keep going, you just keep walking closer and closer by taking as many steps as the wolf determines. But there's no end game for it, and there's no, like, prize. There's just, it's so... You get me? Like, if you're a wolf, you have control of everything, but, like, it's pointless because there's no goal, I guess, is the point. It's not like if you're not a wolf and you get to the end and you touch a wolf, you win or anything, which would make sense. And maybe that's just because that's not how we played, and that's actually how you're meant to play it, in which case I retract all my statements. But the way we played it was just you just keep going, and then like you take whatever steps you want. but the current best way to play, I suppose, if a goal, I suppose, is to not be the wolf, is to basically take as tiny steps as possible, right? To delay getting actually to the wolf. So when it's dinner time, you can sort of run backwards and you won't get caught very easily. And I guess the best way to play for the wolf is just to be like, oh, it's 100 o'clock, or just say like ridiculously high numbers all the time, continuously, until, you know, someone is definitively probably behind you, in which case you say it's dinner time and then you catch someone for sure. But you might also argue, should the goal to be not, shouldn't the goal be to be the wolf, because the wolf is the only one who really does anything in the entire game, in which case the best winning move is just to basically get as fast as you can to the wolf and then just not move when the wolf says it's dinner time, which kind of feels like not in the spirit of a game. So you would have thought the aim is to not be the wolf. Anyway, your conclusion for this might be, you know, like, kids are perhaps easily entertained in the first place. You don't have to think too hard about these sort of games. It's just meant to be a simple playground game with simplistic rules, which everyone can sort of pick up and learn and have a fun time doing, because it's kind of fun to chase and have a bit of brilliance and tension, and have kids like play against one person but not necessarily have a way to win or lose in the end, so you can continuously play it non-stop and not have like some sort of bitter rivalries or competitiveness awaken inside the children. It's breathable mesh. I don't even know what you asked me, but there you go. But like, there should be a goal in What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? Like, the goal should be to touch like Mr. Wolf on the back, like, or something, before he manages to say it's dinner time, right? And the goal for the wolf is to get them to walk as close as possible without them actually touching your back, because otherwise you had to be the wolf again or something. because that's how it is in statues or red light, green light, whatever, right? The goal is like when it's green light you can go, when it's red light you have to freeze and stop, and then the ultimate goal for everyone who's not the traffic light, I guess, is for them to touch a traffic light on the back and then run backwards without getting caught, right? And the traffic light kind of wants to make sure they never get like patted on the back, which is how you play Grandma's Footsteps. Except for I was also thinking about Grandma's Footsteps when I was reminded of it, because obviously it's been a while since I played Grandma's Footsteps. Grandma's Footsteps is just like hardcore red light, green light, which is, by the way, just a hardcore version of red light, green light in like Japan and Korea. Because in Japan and Korea, the one in Korean is like 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. I don't know if I said that correctly, by the way. I don't speak Korean. Which means like the hibiscus flower has bloomed. It's not quite the hibiscus, it's the South Korea's national flowers. That flower has bloomed, and that's basically like you can move anytime they're saying it, and as soon as they stop saying it, they're gonna whip around and look around, see if you move. And if you move, you get eliminated, or like sent back to the beginning or whatever. Or actually, I believe how it is in Korea/Japan is you had to go and hold up the person who's like got their head against a wall, and you make like a long chain. So the more people you catch, the longer the chain becomes, or something. So it's a lot easier for the people who aren't the traffic light, I suppose, to break the chain to release the prisoners, I suppose. Does that make any sense? I don't know. And in Japanese it's kind of similar. Instead of saying the 무궁화 thing, you go koronda. No, daruma-san ga koronda, which means the Daruma doll has fallen over, I think. But in red light, green light, you don't get that much. You just go green light, red light, right? Which is it, because I'd imagine in the Korean and Japanese one you kind of had to say with like a certain rhythm and a certain song and a certain beat, so that's kind of predictable, like when you can stop moving. But in red light, green light, you just like, I suppose you say green light at any length and then just like randomly say red light to try and catch people off guard, which I guess is part of the fun. But I don't think red light, I'm not sure red light, green light has that whole like daisy chaining thing they got going on in the Korean and Japanese versions. By the way, if you're going to ask me what it is in Chinese, I have actually no idea. I've never played it in Chinese. But I played Grandma's Footsteps in the UK. Although apparently some people also call it statues. But we played Grandma's Footsteps, and I'm not really sure why. I never really thought about it until when I was younger. I didn't really comprehend why it was called that. But I assume it's meant to be like your grandma's, your like children trying to like sneak up and like past your bedtime or something. Your grandma's just like turning around and being like, but she doesn't have very good eyesight. She can only see like moving things like a T-Rex, I guess. And she's like turning around when and you just wait, hold on. She turns around every time she hears noise, and you like try and see movement, but as a kid you're trying to sneak past her and not get caught. Hold on, I didn't really phrase that particularly well. As the grandma, you can only see people if they're moving, and then as a non-grandma, I suppose you're a kid who's sneaking around past her. But no, get down from there, get down. What's the latest? How am I going to give you a present if you sit up there? I wonder if we can continuously run into you to get you down. I don't think so. I think we just had to come back later. What in Grandma's Footsteps? From what I recall, you don't say anything. You just walk up. I mean, you just turn around whenever you feel like it. So it's very much a reaction-based game, which is rather difficult. You might wager in the first place, because it's like, how are you meant to know when to stop? It I suppose encourages walking very, very slowly and deliberately, rather than the red light, green light, and in other countries being like, oh, you can take more risky things. You can sprint up for a little bit, and if you can stop on a dime, even better. But with Grandma's Footsteps, you've got to be cautious the entire way through, because otherwise you don't. What are you going to do? If Grandma randomly suddenly turns around, you're doomed, aren't you? There's nothing you can really do about it. There's no like sense of warning. We just like whip your head around, and that's it. You're done for. But yeah, basically, red light, green light is different in all these different countries. But Grandma's Footsteps, at least there's a goal. The goal is you tap Grandma on the back, and then you get chased. And if you get caught, your Grandma for the next round or something. But what's the time, Mr. Wolf? There's no goal. There's no goal for the children to aim for. How can the children be possibly motivated if they have nothing really motivating them, I suppose, in the end. If they've nothing to try and achieve. That's my gripe with What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. What's the point of it? Well, what's the point of it? It's meant to be entertaining, but wouldn't Grandma's Footsteps be more entertaining? Because you actually have a directive, I suppose. I don't know why in recent days we were only talking about like childish things, like we talked about Baby Shark and Peppa Pig or something recently. Now we're talking about What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, which is just a children's playground game. Oh yeah, apparently on Twitter there's a new seasonal item, right? Marigold decoration for the Day of the Dead. I saw it on Twitter. Yeah. Well, What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? It needs an upgrade. It needs a glam up, you know. It needs a reason for you to do something, I suppose. Is long and short of it. Like, it's just simple. The ultimate goal should just be like to try and touch Mr. Wolf's back, to like tag him or something, and then get backwards without getting caught. But that's not the goal, as far as I remember. It's just you just walk up to the wolf. You just take an X number of steps. You know, there's no strategy. And before you're like, oh, kids, they don't want that. They just want something simple or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, you already got simple games. You got tag, or it, or whatever it's called in whatever part of England you're from. Because apparently it's called different things in different parts of the UK. I should say. Didn't know that, but you know, it makes perfect sense. Why am I here? Oh, we're selling things. That's right. I don't really know where I was going with all of this. To be perfectly honest, I didn't really think it through about well. I'm just saying, like, it already is like the simplest playground game out there. You don't need more simple playground games. Give more challenging playground games. I mean, that's what you done with it in the first place. You got Stuck in the Mud, which is I think it's basically like Kick the Can in America, except for there's no can to kick. I guess you had to tap someone on the shoulder to unfreeze them. He's Shrinking Lemons, which is very similar to Stuck in the Mud, except for when you get stuck, you slowly start shrinking, and you had to like crawl through people's legs or something to unstuck them. Does that sound right? That sounds kind of vaguely familiar. And then if you shrink all the way down to the ground, you also become a tagger. So eventually everyone loses. In the end, you know, that you already got like glammed up versions of, I suppose, it. Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe Grandma's Footsteps is just a glammed up version of not whose wolf is it anyway? What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? You know, that doesn't make any sense. We need to buy things. What do we need to buy? I don't know. What can we buy some flowers? I don't know. Yeah, what was I going with all of this? I don't know. Yeah, maybe What's the Time, Mr. Wolf is meant to be a glammed up version of... No, sorry. Maybe Grandma's Footsteps is a glammed up version of What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. But really, it's the other way around, isn't it? What's the Time, Mr. Wolf introduces more mechanics, but they're pointless. It takes out mechanics at the same time. Now, by the way, I am saying this all under the presumption that this is exactly how you play What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. Perhaps it's just when... I shouldn't say perhaps in that sort of, like... patronising way. I think what probably is the case is just the way we played What's the Time, Mr. Wolf was just incorrect to be... stone stool cutting board. To be pretty frank with you, maybe the ultimate goal in the end is to actually like tap the ball from the back, but I don't recall that because I remember thinking that when I was younger. I was just like, what's the point of playing this game? We could just play Grandma's Footsteps instead. 1 second. Nothing like drinking some water in the middle of an episode. What's some stuff we should put away? Yeah, I just remember thinking when I was younger, it's like, this game seems pointless. And I suppose you might argue, hey, isn't that just you as a child trying to be too smart for your own good, trying to overthink these sort of things, when really the answer is just enjoy it, you know, just have a little bit of fun. Isn't it kind of fun to just chase each other? Isn't it kind of fun to not have to play it all the time? You just have different things. But alas, my childish analytic brain, I suppose, was like, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this. Someone needs to know. Someone needs to speak out against What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? A cool concept for a game which has no substance behind it. I don't really know where I was going with this entire thing. But I am heralding the revolution of What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. Give What's the Time, Mr. Wolf more mechanics. for kids to interface with, so there's actual purpose to, you know, walking forwards, and you're not just incentivized to take tiny steps if you don't want to be the wolf, or if you do want to be the wolf, you just don't run away, I suppose. Yeah, and I don't really know what I was going forward about. There's something else I want to say, but I can't remember what. But it was also a question being like, oh, like, and if Squid Game happened in your country, what sort of games would it be? And, you know, I guess what's the time, Mr. Wolf, is our red light, green light. Well, I don't know. Is either Grandma's Footsteps or is it red light, green light? Or is it what's the time, Mr. Wolf? And I think Grandma's Footsteps makes more sense, except for, am I just misremembering Grandma's Footsteps? Is it actually you just don't say anything while you do the entire thing? I forgot to make the stone stool. Is that actually you just whip around whenever you want to try and... Oh yeah, did I actually explain the part where if you see someone moving, we get sent back to the beginning in Grandma's Footsteps? I don't know if I even said that part. It's just like, there could be more to this game. You know? Oh yeah, this is what I was going to say. My analytic childish brain, you know, strikes again, because it also happened with, Ip Dip Do, right? Because of course, you know, Ip Dip Do. If you don't know, it's like, you put all your feet in a circle, and presumably children, this is just like a way to figure out who's on. It's a selection game, I suppose. You put... why did I just make this? I don't know why I just made this. I didn't mean to make it. I meant to make a stone stool. You put all your feet in like in a circle, and you like tap it. You sing a song as you tap each person's foot with each syllable, and then whoever it lands on is either the person who's hit or is the person who can take their foot out and they're not it for the game. And they like go and hide or something, and you go like Ip Dip Do. Cat's got the flu, chicken's got the chicken pox, so out goes you. Which, you know, perfectly fine, perfectly normal, except the fact because it's a fixed number, you can always predict what's going to happen when you do it. So I guess, and the one I think I remember is I think if you, whoever you select first, if there's just two of you when you do Ip Dip Do, is the person who will get selected on final syllable. Is that right? Ip Dip Do. Cat's got the flu, chicken's got chicken pox, so out goes you. Yeah, that seems about right. So of course, you know, analytic me, you'd be like, oh, you know, if I ever want to not be the person's on or want to specifically get myself out, you know, you just take control and be like, oh, I'm going to do this one, and then you just like select yourself and be like, oh, you know, it looks like I'm out, or that sort of thing. Of course, you might be like, that's a rather childish thing to do. Yeah, I was a child, so you got me, I guess. I did kind of childish things when I was 5 years old. Heavens, who'd have thunk it? I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get a wolf ridge, but we'll certainly try, I guess. But yeah, which is why there's another one which is not. Oh yeah, eeny meeny miny mo, which also might be the same. Eeny meeny miny mo, catch a tiger by its toe. If it licks, let it go. Eeny meeny miny mo. Is that right? I don't know. But that one with two people, it lands on the other foot. So. What do you know? But no, anyway, this is all just for me to say that the best one is Ipidipidocian. If you don't know this one, it goes Ipidipidocian, my operation, how many people at the station? And then the person says 5. And then the person who does the foot counting can either go, oh yeah, the person Ipidipidocian, my operation, how many people at the station? And whoever's foot you land on says a number. Normally it's a reasonable number. If you say like 100, people are just going to be like, what are you, stupid? But you're like 5 or something. And then the person who's doing the foot counting can either just go immediately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can be like, or a thing we also did was like, the one who lands on number 5 will surely not be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you count back then. You know, you got a little bit of randomness in there. You know, 2 sets of sort of like randomness. Is it perfect? No, of course not. It's not as perfect as a random selection, and obviously it's not meant to be, because like I don't think kids are going to be particularly enticed to be like, oh, you want to play it? You know, let's put all our names in a random number generator so we can have a fair representation of who's going to start on as being it. The kids are going to be like, what? I just want to play the game. Teach. I'm like, no, you got to understand. It's not fair if you do it by using Ip Dip Do or Eeny Meeny Miny Mo. And if you're going to do it at least sort of pseudo-random way, at least use Ipidipidocian. And they'll be saying, it's like, go home, teacher. I don't know why I'm a teacher in this scenario. I'll probably be like some random crazy person yelling on the street. Stop using Ip Dip Do. But yeah, but you see, you got like 2 levels of randomness there. One, I guess you could always predict whose foot is going to land on, and if your particularly smart. If you know it's going to land on your foot, you can count the number of numbers to get yourself out by doing it specifically. But you know, you're kind of expected to answer instantly, and it's kind of difficult, I suppose, to know who it's immediately going to land on. And even so, you can try and tilt the system in your favour and say a number. That'll get yourself out. It's up to the person doing the foot counting in the end, anyway, because they could just go start immediately counting, or they could go whoever lands on number whatever will surely not be it. You know, that's just like another added layer of randomness to it. Did we already give it to you, Flick? I think we must have already given it to you, Flick. I don't even remember, to be honest, doing that. See, that's why Ipidipidation is by far the superior finger counting, not finger, foot tapping counting technique, I suppose, to determine who's it in whatever you want to play. So really, as it turns out, the worst thing you could do as a child on a playground is play What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, and determine who's the wolf by playing Ip Dip Do, you know? Just utterly terrible, you know? You're playing games wrong, kid. Obviously, what I'm saying is all facetious, you know, and no one actually cares what kids do, as long as they're not hurting each other and having fun. Let's just, like, do whatever. But it always bothered me as a child. That you know, anytime anyone would do Ip Dip Do, you know? I feel like I even remember trying to talk to my friends being like, we should do Ip Dip Ocean, otherwise people might, you know, people might influence Ip Dip Do and, like, get themselves out. Which, probably, at the end of the day, it was only me, because I was the only one who bothered to count Ip Dip Do and be like, oh, I'm going to use this to my advantage. It was like, I have a forbidden knowledge of the secret tomes of Ip Dip Do. We can't use this. No one should be able to use this. And then everyone else is like, what are you talking about? Forbidden knowledge. So, yeah, you know, Ip Dip Do, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Well, not F tier selection, but it's just Ipidipidation so much better. Also, I don't even know what other ways you have. I guess you can do like rock, paper, scissors in a group. Which is, I think, apparently much more common in Japan and Korea, from what I can tell. Probably China, maybe China as well. Maybe I shouldn't lump them all together. Because you might be like, oh, you know, rock, paper, scissors group, how does that work? Oh, you just, you know, what if someone does rock, what if someone does paper, and the other person does scissors? Well, and the answer is apparently you just keep going until there's only 2 symbols represented, rather than all 3 of them. Which I don't know how often that happens, to be honest, and I'd imagine it's not the most practical way to determine things until if you got like groups of like 15 or something. But if you got like a group of 6, it seems fair enough. I mean, what is that? 2/3 to the power of however many people. No, wait. Yeah, 2/3 to the power of however many people are playing, right? So it's, you know, feasible that you'll eventually get a layout where, like, one of the symbols is not represented. Sorry, I think it's getting off topic. I don't even know what's on topic anymore. What am I going to title this video? What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, I guess. I do have to give points to What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, to at least being very thematically, you know. It's actually got a thematic to it, you know. No thematic going for it whatsoever. It's just like tag, or you're it. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? You know, there's no story behind it. There's no context. There's no atmosphere, alright? Stuck in mud, a little bit more. You know, you're literally stuck in the mud, I suppose, when you get tagged. And shrinking lemons, you are shrinking. I never really understood why you were a lemon, to be honest. Maybe it was like an old-timey slang for something. But that's the thing, you know. What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? You know, story actually there. And it's all set out for you. You are creeping up on Mr. Wolf and you're asking him what the time is. And I guess, you know, he's got some sort of magical spell, which means whatever time it is, but whatever time he says it is the time of, is how far you can move in number of steps. And I guess that doesn't really make sense, but, you know, at least there's some sort of compelling story there. You're facing off against a magical wolf. It's just let down by the rules of a game, you know. Whoever created What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, they didn't think about the competitive aspect of it. They didn't think about what would be the drive, what would be the aim, what's the collaborative effort you're all trying to go for. I'm actually going to look this up because it's entirely possible there is an actual goal to What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, but What's the Time, Mr. Wolf playground game? Because it might actually have, like, a goal. It's a form of tag in Australia, Belgium, Canada, US, and English-speaking Caribbean, Ireland, New Zealand, South Africa, and the UK. I didn't actually know there's that many. It's recommended by Harvard to assist in developing executive functions of children 5 to 7. One player is chosen to be Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf stands at the opposite of the playing field from the other people facing away from him. A corner response and takes place. All players except for Mr. Wolf chant in unison. What time is it, Mr. Wolf? Mr. Wolf will answer one of two ways. Make all clock, e.g. 3 o'clock. Players will take that many steps, counting them aloud as they go. 1, 2, 3. And they ask a question again. Mr. Wolf may call dinner time, lunchtime, or midnight. Huh. Then Mr. Wolf will turn around and chase the other players. If Mr. Wolf tags a player, that player becomes a new wolf. In some parts of North America, it's called What's the Time, Mr. Shark? Mr. Shark. I feel like I talk about Baby Shark a bit too much nowadays. Or something that's so outdated. It's not uncommon for Mr. Wolf to be allowed to look around at the other players before answering a question. Especially if there's a rule involving penalties applied to Mr. Wolf if a player reaches him before dinner time is called. Do you see? This is variant Mr. Wolf. That is a superior version of What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. Stop playing with standard vanilla rules, you know. The variant versions, they just add so much to the game. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's utterly nonsensical. This entire episode. There's a simpler version where Mr. Wolf faces the other players and must remain stationary until dinner time is called. If any player moves on a time of day being called, that player becomes Mr. Wolf. What? If any player moves on a time of day being called. So just stand still, I guess. I mean, stand still. Duh, so easy. I suppose what you say for red light, green light, and statues as well. I guess we'll go sell this stuff. You know, we could round off this episode, but I want to finish reading this Wikipedia article. Simpler, in another version, Mr. Wolf holds a dandelion seed head and blows on it. The other players dance around him and her, taunting him. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? After each blow, Mr. Wolf calls out 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So all the seed head has been blown away, then calls out dinner time and chases the other players to tag them before they can claim sanctuary at a pre-designated point called bar. The players claim bar by yelling out B-A-R bar and touching a safety point. What the heck is this game? I've never heard of this version of the game, but you know, I'm not going to doubt it that it don't exist out there. The game can also be played on a hopscotch court. Ow! Oh, you hop that number of spaces forward. Hopscotch courts are like 10 numbers long. It's tiny. How are you going to get a good game of that when there's only 10 steps you can possibly take? You say 11 o'clock and the game's entirely over. Well, I suppose it's sort of been enough ranting about, not hopscotch. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? We should probably just round this episode off here. I didn't realise it's even been 32 minutes, but if you have been watching, thank you very much. This has been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join the Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now it's our farewell. So until next time, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? Dinner time. I don't know. These endings get worse and worse. Bye bye for now.